Chosen woman, when God elevates you, he becomes extremely protective of your life, your peace, and your destiny. Not every man who enters your life is sent by God. Some are distractions, some are traps, and some come with spiritual assignments to drain you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially. When God calls you chosen, the enemy calls you target. This is why discernment is not optional. It's survival. Your spirit is too valuable, your future too powerful, and your purpose too divine to be entangled with the wrong man. A chosen woman cannot afford unnecessary heartbreak, confusion, or soul ties. Your life has meaning. Your heart is sacred. Your peace is expensive, and your calling requires alignment. Today we expose the 9 types of men you should never let into your life, because your destiny depends on who is allowed to stand beside you. The man who fears no God. A man who does not fear God is a man whose life operates without divine boundaries, inner conviction, or true accountability. When a man rejects spiritual authority, he becomes the authority in his own mind, meaning he becomes ruled by desire, ego, and impulse. A man who fears no God feels no need to humble himself, admit wrongdoing, apologize, or correct harmful behavior. If he cannot hear God's voice, he will never listen to yours. If he refuses conviction from the Holy Spirit, he will never accept correction from a partner. This type of man often appears confident, powerful, or independent, but beneath that surface is a soul without direction, a heart without discipline, and a spirit without guidance. He does what he wants when he wants, and feels justified because he answers to no higher standard. A woman who is spiritually chosen needs stability, emotional protection, and vision, and these things can only flow from a man who submits to God first. A man who fears no God leads with pride instead of purpose, with ego instead of wisdom, and with self-interest instead of love. Over time, you will find yourself emotionally exhausted, spiritually drained, and constantly trying to fix what only God can fix. When a man rejects divine instruction, he becomes unpredictable, inconsistent, and unanchored, because without God he has no internal compass guiding him toward righteousness. For a chosen woman, being tied to a man like this means carrying the entire weight of the relationship alone. You will pray while he plays. You will fight spiritual battles he creates. You will try to stabilize a life he keeps disrupting. A man who fears no God cannot lead you, cannot cover you, and cannot build with you because he is not led by anything greater than himself. 2. The man who envies your light. Some men are drawn to your glow, your presence, your purpose, and your spiritual strength. But deep down, they resent the fact that they do not shine the way you do. In the beginning, admiration looks like support, compliments, and interest. But slowly, jealousy begins to rise, and instead of celebrating your gifts, he begins to compete with them. This type of man will subtly criticize your dreams, mock your ambitions, or dismiss your success as luck or exaggeration. He will pretend to encourage you, but secretly hopes you stay below him so he can feel superior. Jealousy in a man does not always appear loud. Sometimes it appears in small comments, passive-aggressive remarks, or a lack of enthusiasm when you succeed. He may compare himself to you, feel threatened by your growth, or become irritated when others recognize your value. A man who envies your light will eventually try to dim you, because your glow exposes the places where he refuses to grow. A chosen woman carries spiritual depth, grace, vision, and divine favor. And not every man has the emotional maturity to handle that. Instead of rising to your level, a jealous man will try to pull you down to his. He becomes a competitor instead of a partner, a critic instead of a supporter, and a silent enemy instead of a covering. When a man is threatened by you, he cannot lead you, love you properly, or walk beside you because his insecurity becomes the foundation of the relationship. Over time, he will resent your confidence, sabotage your progress, and attempt to shrink your identity so he can feel comfortable. A chosen woman must never entertain a man who sees her light as a threat instead of a blessing. 3. The man who only loves your body, not your soul. This man pursues you with passion, intensity, and physical desire, but his interest never goes beyond the surface. He is drawn to your beauty, your femininity, and your physical presence, but he has no desire to understand your calling, your purpose, or the depths of who you truly are. He enjoys your body, but is intimidated by your mind. He admires your appearance, but is overwhelmed by your spiritual strength. This type of man thrives on physical intimacy because it requires no growth, accountability, or emotional depth from him. He can enjoy you without having to invest in you. He shows up for your body but disappears when it's time to talk about your goals, your identity, your faith, or your future. A chosen woman carries spiritual depth, and depth terrifies a shallow man. He wants your time, your affection, your presence, but not your truth. He becomes uncomfortable when the conversation shifts from pleasure to purpose. He avoids discussing commitment, avoids emotional vulnerability, and avoids anything that requires his heart to engage. While he gives you passion, he gives you no direction. While he gives you chemistry, he gives you no covering. While he gives you desire, he gives you no devotion. He sees you as an experience, not a destiny partner. Over time, you will realize that you are bonding with a man who cannot meet you where you are spiritually. A chosen woman cannot thrive with a man who only touches her body but never touches her soul. He becomes a distraction, a detour, and sometimes a delay sent to pull you away from your divine purpose. The longer you stay, the more disconnected you feel because your spirit knows he cannot walk with you into your calling. 4. The man who uses you, but never pours into you. This man takes and takes without ever giving. He feeds off your kindness, your nurturing, your strength, your generosity, and your emotional availability, but gives you nothing in return. You are the one who listens, supports, prays, encourages, uplifts, guides, advises, and provides. Yet he does not show up for you in even the smallest ways. He drains your energy but never replenishes it. He receives your love but never reflects it. You pour into him until you are empty, while he continues to consume everything you offer without gratitude or reciprocation. This type of man is emotionally parasitic. He survives on your light but does nothing to protect it. He expects you to be strong for him, but he is never strong for you. He expects your patience but offers no growth. He expects your loyalty but gives no effort. A chosen woman operates with a heart built by God, and men like this often recognize that purity and exploit it. They attach themselves to your spirit because it fills the voids inside them, but instead of growing, they drain you. Instead of building with you, they lean on you. Instead of valuing you, they use you. Over time, the relationship becomes one-sided, emotionally exhausting, and spiritually damaging. You begin to shrink, not because you lack strength, but because you're constantly pouring into a man who refuses to pour anything back. A chosen woman must protect her energy fiercely, because emotional parasites do not leave until there is nothing left to take. A healthy relationship requires mutual giving, equal effort, emotional reciprocity, and spiritual nourishment. Anything less becomes bondage, not love. 5. The man who can't control his anger. A man who lacks emotional control will eventually become a man who tries to control everything around him, including you. Anger is not simply a temporary emotion, it is a doorway through which harmful behaviors enter. A man with uncontrolled anger often carries unresolved wounds, suppressed insecurities, or deep frustrations that erupt without warning. He shifts from calm to explosive in seconds. His mood becomes unpredictable, his reactions become extreme. What starts as raised voices can escalate into intimidation, manipulation, verbal abuse, and in severe cases, physical aggression. A chosen woman must understand that a man whose temper rules him will eventually rule her with fear. In the beginning, he may apologize, blame stress, or promise to change, but anger left unhealed becomes a weapon. It can silence your voice, break your confidence, and damage your peace. When a man cannot manage his emotions, he becomes unsafe, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. His presence forces you to walk on eggshells, constantly monitoring your tone, words, and actions so you don't set him off. This is not love, this is bondage. A man who cannot control his anger cannot lead a home, cannot nurture a relationship, and cannot provide stability. Anger clouds judgment, fuels impulsive decisions, and destroys trust. A chosen woman who carries purpose and spiritual sensitivity must protect her peace above all. A man who is governed by rage will interfere with your destiny, disrupt your growth, and corrupt your emotional well-being. His inability to regulate himself becomes your daily struggle, and your spirit slowly weakens under the weight of emotional instability. True love requires emotional discipline, not emotional explosions. 6. The man who won't heal his trauma. It is not wrong for a man to have wounds. Everyone carries pain, disappointment, or heartbreak from the past. What becomes dangerous is when a man refuses to heal, refuses to face himself, and refuses to take responsibility for the emotional damage he carries. An unhealed man does not just suffer, he spreads suffering. He brings the residue of his past into every new relationship, and instead of growing, he repeats cycles. He projects his insecurities onto you, misreads your intentions because of old wounds, and punishes you for things someone else did. Even your love becomes stressful to him because it forces him to confront the broken parts he has avoided for years. A chosen woman has a nurturing heart, and men like this often cling to that nurturing because they subconsciously want to be rescued. But you cannot rescue a man who refuses to rescue himself. You cannot love away wounds that he refuses to acknowledge. You cannot become the therapist, healer, fixer, mother, and partner all at once. When a man refuses to heal, he becomes unpredictable emotionally. One moment affectionate, the next distant, one moment loving, the next cold, one moment open, the next completely shut down. His unresolved trauma creates confusion, instability, and emotional turbulence in your relationship. You will feel like you are walking through an emotional maze that never ends. Healing is a choice. And when a man refuses that choice, he is choosing to remain broken, no matter how much he claims he wants love. A chosen woman cannot sacrifice her peace, her destiny, or her emotional well-being trying to rehabilitate a man who refuses to grow. Love him from a distance, pray for him if you choose, but never tie your life to someone who is committed to remaining wounded. Unhealed men break good women, drain their spirit, and derail their purpose. The man who runs from responsibility. This man is forever avoiding accountability, consequences, growth, and maturity. He wants the benefits of a relationship without the effort. He desires the presence of a good woman but refuses to become a good man. He may be charming, fun, or exciting, but when it comes to consistency, discipline, and responsibility, he collapses. He avoids hard conversations, avoids commitment, avoids planning, avoids obligation, and avoids anything that requires him to grow beyond the comfort of boyhood. He wants blessings without sacrifice, a supportive partner without offering support, and respect without putting in the work required to earn it. A chosen woman who carries purpose and vision cannot build with a man like this because he becomes a weight instead of a pillar. His irresponsibility becomes your burden. His instability becomes your stress. His lack of direction becomes your confusion. Over time, you start feeling like the parent instead of the partner, leading, planning, organizing, fixing, reminding, and carrying everything alone. A man who runs from responsibility cannot protect you, cannot lead you, cannot provide for you emotionally, and cannot grow with you spiritually. He will always choose the easy route, the comfortable path, and the option that requires the least amount of effort. And because he avoids responsibility, he also avoids self-improvement. This means he repeats the same mistakes, cycles through the same patterns, and blames others instead of looking inward. A chosen woman must guard her destiny from men who refuse to grow because partnership without responsibility leads to exhaustion. You deserve a man who stands firm, who shows up, who follows through, who honors commitments, and who builds a life, not one who leaves you carrying the weight of two people. A man who runs from responsibility will always leave you feeling alone, even when he's standing right beside you. The man who speaks beautifully, but lives terribly. Words are easy, but character is rare. This man knows exactly what to say. He can charm a room, disarm doubt, and make a woman feel like she's stepping into her destiny. He speaks about loyalty, but his actions scream inconsistency. He talks about honesty, but he hides, lies, or withholds truth. He promises commitment, but disappears when responsibility appears. He paints beautiful futures using empty words, but never takes one step toward making those promises reality. This man can quote scriptures, speak like a leader, or act like a gentleman in public, but behind closed doors, his integrity collapses. He may appear spiritual, but lacks discipline. He may appear mature, but lacks accountability. He may appear loving, but lacks sacrifice. A chosen woman must learn to look at a man's fruit, not his vocabulary. Because words can disguise intentions, but actions always expose truth. A smooth talker without character is a spiritual trap. He seduces the ears but starves the soul. Over time, you notice the gap between who he says he is and who he truly lives as. And that gap becomes painful, confusing, and emotionally draining. You start questioning yourself, doubting your discernment, and feeling torn between the words he speaks and the life he shows. But confusion itself is a sign. God is not the author of confusion. A man aligned with God brings clarity, consistency, and peace. A man who lives terribly despite speaking beautifully brings chaos, doubt, and emotional instability. His words create illusions, but his actions create disappointment. A chosen woman must not fall for the performance of a man who refuses to live the truth he speaks. 9. The man who disrespects women. How a man speaks about women reveals the posture of his heart. If a man mocks women, belittles them, objectifies them, cheats on them, or treats them as disposable, that is exactly how he will eventually treat you, no matter how special he claims you are. A man who disrespects women shows his true character long before the relationship becomes serious. He reveals his mindset through jokes, comments, behaviors, and how he treats the women already in his life, his mother, his sisters, his co-workers, his exes, his friends. If he speaks of women with contempt, if he enjoys degrading conversations, if he finds pleasure in causing emotional harm, if he labels all women the same, if he has a history of betrayal or manipulation, these are not random red flags. These are spiritual warnings. A chosen woman must understand that disrespect is a seed that grows into destruction. It may start small, dismissing your feelings, talking over you, ignoring boundaries, invalidating your experiences. But over time, it grows into entitlement, control, emotional cruelty, and sometimes even abuse. A man who disrespects women lacks empathy, humility, emotional maturity, and spiritual alignment. He is driven by ego, not love. He seeks power, not partnership. He views women as objects, not souls. A chosen woman who is divinely crafted and spiritually sensitive must never settle for a man who does not honor femininity. You deserve a man who protects, uplifts, supports, and values your presence. A man who respects women is a man who respects God because he understands the sacredness of his creation. But a man who disrespects women dishonors himself, dishonors God, and destroys relationships. You must not try to change him, fix him, or convince him. You must protect your spirit and walk away. A chosen woman cannot thrive in an environment where disrespect is normal. Chosen woman, guard your heart and protect your destiny. Not every man who approaches you is meant to walk with you. God sends men to bless you, but the enemy sends men to drain you. This is the Women of Light channel. If this message reached you right on time, be sure to subscribe for more divine guidance. And if you know this message was sent to you at the exact moment you needed it, type 1111 in the comments section for divine blessings and alignment. Thank you for watching.